Joan Rivers said that Michelle Obama was a man before she died.
No, Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender.
I thought it was a joke too, but the way she said it wasn't like jokey. Oh, come on, everybody knows Michelle Obama's a man.
If all of a sudden the Dems did flip in August and they put a Newsom Michelle combination, do you know what mainstream media would do with that? CNN, what Jimmy Fallon, Colbert, all these podcasts.
Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David just ended Michelle Obama again. But let's be honest, the only thing actually destroyed is nuance. What's said, what's clipped, and what people think they heard are three different universes. Watch closely, laugh responsibly, and decide whether this was a demolition or just another viral overreaction on steroids.
I have no issue with Big Mike.
That is the wackiest conspiracy.
It's a wacky conspiracy. Can I make one point for the people that on the side of it? But I don't think she's Big Mike. It is weird that there's not one photo of her pregnant, but maybe there is. Maybe it's not weird. I don't know.
She's a public person. Why would you want photos of her pregnant out there?
Guys, if you're looking for a great podcast to listen to, a new one that's come up, Michelle Obama is maybe not one of them, but her take is killing it. After first episode, Michelle Obama is slammed for whining about costs in the White House.
The moment the political celebrity industrial complex starts polishing another halo, the air gets thick with self-seriousness, motivational slogans, and a carefully curated aura of untouchable wisdom.
You know, it's just good to see everybody having a good time. The country's almost back to normal before World War III. COVID was just so strange. We lost a lot of people during COVID, and most of them are still alive. Yeah. Before COVID, I would have told you that vaccines are the most important invention in human history. After COVID, I'm like, I don't think we went to the moon. I think Michelle Obama's got a dick. I think Pizzagate is real. I think there's direct energy weapons in Antarctica.
And right there, floating above the fog machine of admiration, sits Michelle Obama, presented not as a former first lady with opinions, but as a lifestyle brand that somehow escaped all quality control checks.
Somebody who was a first lady said something about you a couple months ago. And I know you have to be very careful when you speak about her, because if you do, you may get a lot of hate, and you're going to get some comments.
I'm going to get hate anyway.
Say some things. But this lady, first lady, Michelle Obama,
yes,
who was Barack Obama's wife, she had this to say about you a couple months ago. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah.
If I listen to ESPN for an hour, it's like watching The Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the same drama, and they're yelling at each.
Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David do not approach this phenomenon gently. They circle it like skeptics at a magic show, tugging at the wires, wondering why everyone is applauding so hard when the trick is painfully obvious. The first thing that gets shredded is the idea that Michelle Obama exists in some rare moral altitude where criticism is forbidden. The brand relies heavily on that altitude. Question anything, and suddenly it is treated like a personal attack on decency itself. Rogan's style of dismantling this myth is less about rage and more about disbelief. The kind of disbelief that comes from watching someone be treated like a philosopher king for repeating motivational poster energy with a Princeton resume attached. Michelle Obama is constantly marketed as relatable, grounded, and just like everyone else, despite living in a bubble made of book tours, private jets, and speaking fees that look like lottery jackpots. Rogan's influence here shows in the way the conversation frames this contradiction. There is something almost impressive about telling people to stay humble while standing on a stage that costs more than most homes.
Chris, how are you? Do you think that the country will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama. Let's just calm down.
See if we can find Joan Rivers saying Michelle Obama's a man, the video. So 2014 or before, she said Michelle Obama is a man. So this is like 10 years.
We all know.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay.
Bizarre conspiracy theory behind Michelle Obama memes. Now, this is another one. When I see this, and I see people saying that she's a man and all that, I'm like, oh, China got to you. If they can get you to think that Obama's married to a man, and by the way, if I was China, I would kill.
Then, Bet-David pushes it further by pointing out how the message is always about empowerment, resilience, and inner strength. Yet it somehow never includes accountability or self-reflection about the system that made her untouchable in the first place. Then comes the obsession with narrative control. Michelle Obama is not just a public figure, she is a protected storyline. Every appearance feels like a carefully scripted chapter in an ongoing brand documentary, where the hero never gets challenged, never stumbles, and never has to answer uncomfortable questions. Rogan's angle here is brutal in its simplicity. Real growth comes from friction, not applause. Yet the Michelle Obama media ecosystem is allergic to friction. Friendly interviews, predictable applause, and endless praise loops dominate the landscape. Bet David frames it like a business case, arguing that no brand this insulated from criticism can claim authenticity with a straight face. Rogan's skepticism cuts through the smoke by asking why these messages are treated as groundbreaking when they come from someone who has never faced the kind of consequences or risks that ordinary people deal with. Bet David adds a capitalist twist, noting how inspiration has become a product, and Michelle Obama sells it better than most. The laughter sharpens when the jabs pivot to the idea of moral authority. Michelle Obama is often positioned as the conscience of the nation, weighing in on culture, values, and what people should aspire to be.
I don't want anybody to get in trouble here. Stephen A., can you actually respond to this, or is it better to say next question?
No, I'll respond.
Just, I don't want you to get in trouble here because, it's like Michelle.
Well,
a really weird view.
As a black man, she's not, the former First Lady is not only someone I respect, I revere. I have a lot of respect for her, and I appreciate who she is and who she has been. Did I like that comment? No, but I wasn't really offended by it because you're arguing sports or whatever. If anything was there to be offended about it, it's like, wait a minute, we talk about 30 basketball teams, 32 football teams, baseball teams, boxing, UFC. That's nothing like the Housewives. I don't know what she's watching. And that's number one. But number two.
Yet this authority is never earned through debate, intellectual challenge, or real-world testing of ideas. It is inherited through status and amplified by media loyalty. Rogan's style makes this absurd by comparing it to handing someone a referee whistle just because they wore the right uniform once. Bet David frames it as a power move, explaining how moral branding is the most profitable form of influence because it shuts down opposition before it even speaks. From there, the chaos dives into the selective outrage phenomenon. Michelle Obama's commentary tends to align perfectly with whatever narrative is currently fashionable among elite circles. Silence when silence is convenient. Passion when passion is safe. The joke practically writes itself when Rogan's influence highlights how courage looks very different when there is no personal risk involved. Despite immense privilege, Michelle Obama frequently frames experiences through struggle-centric storytelling. While acknowledging that she faced challenges, the script mocks how those struggles are often presented in a way that conveniently ignores the extraordinary advantages she also had. Rogan's angle turns this into a larger cultural critique, questioning why modern icons are rewarded for exaggerating hardship instead of owning complexity. Bet David adds that victimhood has become a currency, and Michelle Obama knows exactly how to spend it without ever going broke.
She's up there talking about income inequality. Like, hey, lady.
Yeah, I know.
You're rich as Like, how is that equal? And also, when Michelle Obama was saying, I think she was saying her mother or grandmother was always suspicious of people who took more than they needed.
Yes.
Like, you are worth so much money.
Take more.
The satire gets louder when the mayhem focuses on the education and upbringing narrative. Elite schools, elite networks, elite opportunities, all wrapped in a story that implies grit alone was the deciding factor. The humor comes from pointing out how millions of people work just as hard, if not harder, without access to those pipelines. Bet David compares it to selling a get-rich mindset course while quietly starting with a trust fund. Then comes the wellness and lifestyle branding. Michelle Obama's image as a champion of health and balance is presented as another carefully polished layer. The Do jokes about how wellness advice hits differently when it comes from someone with unlimited resources, personal trainers, chefs, and time. Rogan's influence is obvious here as the tone pokes fun at the idea of preaching discipline from a throne of convenience. Rogan's style highlights how this transformation feels less like leadership and more like influencer culture with a patriotic filter. Bet David frames it as a strategic empire build, where likability is monetized and criticism is treated like a threat to national morale.
Obama has warmed to Newsom, and right now there's discussions. This is real. There's discussions of Michelle Obama as the president and Newsom, or should it be Newsom president, Michelle Obama vice president?
That would be, by the way, that's going to be tough to beat.
It's a powerhouse.
That's going to be tough to beat. So, what do you think
they're
about?
Both incredible men.
What are your thoughts on DeSantis?
Alex, can I just...
I'm just joking. Joan Rivers made a joke about it.
The roast keeps the momentum by dismantling the myth of universal appeal. Michelle Obama is often portrayed as beloved by everyone, yet that image only survives because dissenting voices are labeled as malicious or ignorant. Rogan's skepticism laughs at the idea that any human being could be universally admirable, especially one so deeply embedded in polarizing systems. Bette David points out that suppressing criticism does not create unity. It creates resentment, and resentment eventually laughs louder than applause. As the transitions stay smooth, the duo moves into the concept of legacy protection. Michelle Obama's legacy is guarded like a museum exhibit, roped off and monitored. Every critique is treated as vandalism. The joke here lands hard as Rogan's influence questions why a legacy that strong would need so much protection. Bette David compares it to a business that sues every negative review instead of improving the product. The satire sharpens when addressing the constant comparison game. Michelle Obama is routinely held up as the gold standard against which others are measured, especially other women in public life. They mock how this comparison often feels less empowering and more like a way to shut down diversity of thought. Rogan's angle highlights how idolization can be just as limiting as criticism. Bette David adds that turning one person into the template erases nuance and complexity, which is ironic for someone celebrated as a champion of individuality.
On Instagram, I believe, that Tim Dillon's video where he was saying that Michelle Obama should run for president. If she won, she could pull her cock out and China would just give up. I was fucking wheezing. I couldn't breathe. Big Mike.
Big Mike. Big Mike.
It's like... crazy. Come on, tell me it isn't one of the fun things about the internet.
Of course.
Crazy.
The flow continues into the hypocrisy of political detachment. Michelle Obama often positions herself as above the messiness of politics while still heavily influencing political narratives. The humor comes from pointing out how convenient that stance is. PBD's skepticism frames it as wanting the benefits of influence without the accountability that comes with direct participation. He calls it the clean hands strategy, where power is exercised without fingerprints. As the unraveling barrels forward, it tackles the emotional manipulation baked into public appearances. Tears, heartfelt stories, and carefully timed vulnerability are all part of the package. The joke is not about emotion itself, but about how predictably it is deployed. New wave of praise. Same talking points. Rogan's style laughs at the repetition, while Bette David frames it as a masterclass in brand consistency. Impressive but exhausting. The transitions keep it flowing, never pausing long enough for the applause to catch up.
Okay, 17 million copies was sold worldwide in 2018. That's when they were really, their reputation, 17 million copies. Everybody's like, oh my God, they made so much money. I don't know how much money was made. I think the number was like 36 million. How much did she get paid for it, for the books? I don't know. $65 million was paid in advance for the book. $65 million was paid in advance for the book. And then now you do a podcast with 100 million followers that you promote everywhere, and you only have 17,000 subscribers.
By the time the chaos nears its final stretch, the tone shifts slightly toward mock reflection. The issue is not that Michelle Obama has achievements or influence. It is those things that are treated as beyond scrutiny. Rogan reminds the audience that questioning icons is healthy, not hateful. His entrepreneurial lens reinforces that no brand, no matter how polished, should be immune to market feedback. The closing energy stays sharp and funny, circling back to the core idea that elevation without examination creates mythology, not leadership. Michelle Obama's public image floats on a cushion of praise so thick it barely touches reality anymore. Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David do not attack the person as much as they deflate the balloon, laughing as it slowly loses air. And in that laughter is the reminder that no amount of celebrity, storytelling, or curated wisdom should ever replace honest scrutiny, especially when the applause starts to sound louder than the truth. The final punch lands when the script zooms out and treats the entire phenomenon like a cultural experiment that got wildly out of hand.
I will not run for president.
Yeah, I've heard you say I think Michelle should run.
She could win. She could win, I think. I think if she ran, she could win.
Do you ever run for office?
No.
I have to ask it.
No.
No kind of office.
No.
I don't think she wants that, though.
No.
I don't think she wants that in her life.
Just
The that they dealt with over the 8 years when he was president?
Because I've got these 2 young people at home. Being the kids, the daughters of a president, just think about it. Not so easy.
That job for anybody that really good at it.
Yeah, I trust the person who doesn't want the job more than the person who wants the job.
It's not something that I'm interested in or would ever do, ever.
A former first lady became a moral lighthouse, a wellness guru, a motivational oracle, and a protected species all at once, and nobody was allowed to ask whether any of that made sense. Rogan's influence keeps the tone amused rather than angry, as if watching adults argue over who gets to sit closest to the campfire of approval. Bette David's presence sharpens the ending by framing the whole saga as a lesson in unchecked branding power, where reputation grows faster than responsibility. The humor sticks because it never begs for agreement. It just keeps stacking absurdities until the applause track in everyone's head starts to glitch. A culture that claims to value critical thinking suddenly freezes when a polished icon walks into the room. The moment scrutiny appears, alarms go off, labels get slapped on, and the conversation shuts down. That silence is the real punchline. Not Michelle Obama herself, but the fragile bubble built around her image, trembling at the slightest poke. The conclusion does not roar, it smirks. It reminds viewers that questioning revered figures is not cruelty, it is intellectual hygiene. Elevation without examination turns people into symbols, and symbols are useless when reality gets messy. Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David, in their own chaotic way, rip off the velvet rope and invite common sense back into the room. The laughter lingers because once the spell breaks, it never quite works the same again.